Diablo 4 is here. It's time to pick your class, your build, and your heavy metal playlist to start slaying demons and saving the world. Here are my initial tips and tricks covering everything I've learnt so far from the review period and the betas, so let's go! Thanks Blizzard for sponsoring this video. Let me know in the comments your own tips so we can all help each other out. And we'll start with the hardest choice in the game, and honestly all games like this, and that's picking a class. I have a video breaking down the playstyle and the strengths and weaknesses of all the classes, but at a high level, the Barbarian is a heavy hitting melee focused class wielding 4 weapons. They excel at short range damage and are occasionally less punishing than some of the other classes because of their high health. The Rogue is a hybrid ranged and melee class, a stealthy high crit class that excels at status effects such as cold, shadow, and poison, as well as doing melee damage with daggers or long range damage with a crossbow and a bow. The Sorcerer is a typical sort of mage class that deals elemental damage using mana. They have very high damage, but they are mostly a long range class that has a low amount of health, which can be mitigated in various ways. The Necromancer is a unique class that not only has weapons at their disposal, but an army of minions that are raised from the dead to fight by your side. The Necromancer leaves heavily into this corpse mechanic, either raising the dead or doing various other things to the corpses on the ground. The Druid is a shape-shifting class where you can switch between a werewolf or a werebear, or even stay in your human form to deal elemental damage to enemies, but has limited ranged options. Now, each of these classes has a class specialization, which is hugely important for that specific class. This unlocks at different levels for each class, but when you unlock it, highly recommend that you learn it and invest in it. And some of them have a quest that you have to do to unlock, such as the Rogue. So when you hit level 15 as a Rogue, make sure you go and do that. Leveling up, and especially leveling up quickly, is highly important in any sort of game like this. Now, there are multiple ways to increase the amount of XP you get from various sources. The first is the world tier. So the world tier defines the amount of challenge in the world, but it will also grant you higher XP and gold at some of the higher ranks. Now, you set this when you do start, but you can also change your actual world tier by the statue in the main town. If you click on that statue, you can change between world tier 1 and 2 or some of the other world tiers once unlocked. Forming a party or being near other players also increases the amount of XP gain you get. So if you've got some friends, then team up. Consuming elixirs will also give you a 5% extra XP gain, as well as other bonuses. You'll get them from quest rewards, but you can also craft them at an alchemist in town. In the early stages of the game, I wouldn't worry too much about those additional effects. The main thing you're really worried about here is the XP boost. So just make sure you've got an elixir active for that XP gain. And quests also give a huge chunk of XP, especially side quests, so don't skip them. But I would skip the random trash mobs that you do come across in the world. It's often more time efficient just to run past these bad boys than actually try and fight every single trash mob that wants your attention. Outside of just leveling up, gear is just as important to your overall success. Now, world events that you will find throughout the map are a good source of XP as well, but they will also drop gear when you do open the chest, and opals that you can take to the curiosity vendor so you can actually get a roll of a various weapon or piece of armor if you're looking for something specific. Most of the good loot, however, will come from defeating elites and bosses, which is the primary way that you'll find new gear, especially legendaries. If you do want specific legendaries, you can actually go to the occultist vendor in each of the town to make your own legendaries by imprinting a legendary aspect onto a piece of gear. Now, the legendary aspects, you'll get one per dungeon, and it's specific to that dungeon. You can check the Codex of Power to see all the different legendary aspects. If you want a specific one, you can mark it to find where that dungeon is on the map that will unlock it, and you can head over there, do that dungeon, and then you'll be able to use that aspect on any piece of gear that you already have. When you're looking at gear as well, I highly recommend you go into the settings and turn on the advanced tooltip info. This will give you more information about your current gear as well as the gear that you're comparing it to, by actually giving you like the percentages increase and decreases, as well as the things that you'll actually lose by changing that piece of gear. I found this to be super valuable just at a quick glance to tell, is this piece better than my current piece or is it worse? And in a lot of cases, most of the pieces that just give you like a little bit of extra armor may seem like they're better because it has like that green number next to it, but in a lot of cases it's not, as the secondary bonuses there are more important than the actual armor piece itself. Gem slots are also important on the gear, though you can add gem slots to gear if you do want. So at the jeweler in town, you can add gem slots to existing gear. You can increase the potency of gems by combining them into one. What gems specifically is a little dependent on your class as well as your build, but some couple of general gems that are really good sort of regardless, especially as you're leveling up. For weapons, the skull is good for life on kill, so when you defeat an enemy, you get a little bit of life. Topaz to increase your basic skill damage. For your armor, I'd consider investing in emeralds, which give you thorns, which deal damage to enemies that hit you, as well as ruby to increase your maximum life. And on jewelry, the skull again to increase your armor, or diamonds to increase your resistance to all elements. Those are just sort of generally, obviously depending on your build and what you're going for, there's probably better gems, but just sort of generally as you're leveling up and you just want to use some of these gems, those are ones that I would keep an eye out for. For any of your unwanted gear, I wouldn't be selling it to any vendors. I would be salvaging it at the blacksmith, as you'll get materials that are hugely important for all of your crafting that you'll do much later in the game. With any legendary gear, even if you don't want it, make sure you check with the occultist vendor first to see if you can extract the aspect out of that gear, as it may not be useful to you now, but you may want to use that legendary piece later on. And if you don't, you can just salvage that piece to get the mats anyway. At the blacksmith, you can also repair and upgrade your gear, which will increase its stats. Now, I wouldn't worry about this too much in the beginning, as it's a waste of those precious resources, but you'll find new gear all over the place that will be better than the current gear that you are using as you are leveling up. But you may find one or two pieces that you want to keep, or you could just pull out the legendary aspect from that piece and then put it onto a different piece if you still want to keep that legendary skill. A couple of other things that I've come across. Now, in the beta, we couldn't get a mount, but you can get a mount at the end of Act 3. So once you have finished Act 3, a particular NPC will give you an initial quest to go and get a mount, which you essentially just have to go to the stable and you will unlock the ability to have a mount. As you are leveling up, make sure you go and check with the alchemist so that you can upgrade your potions potency. This will increase the amount of HP that your potions will actually restore. Now, as you complete your region progress, you can actually carry more of your total potions, but the potency is actually more important than just carrying more potions, as your health does increase, so then you can actually heal more of that actual overall health value. Now, you will need plants in order to do this, which you can find throughout the world, as well as in herb caches from side quests. You can also refine different resources at the alchemist as well. So if you're looking for a different sort of plant or resource, but you've got heaps of them, you can change, say, your iron into silver, for example, if you want more silver. Now, when you are out in the world, if you use your portal to fast travel back to the town, you can actually use that same portal that'll be right next to the waypoint to travel back to the exact spot that you left from. I didn't realize this at first and was just ended up running back to where I was going, and then I realized that you can actually just click that portal again and you'll just travel back to the exact same spot that you were. Respecking all of your skills is significantly more expensive than just respecking the specific skill that you want to change. You can actually go in and change one skill rather than like removing your entire tree. So if you're just making tweaks to your build, I highly recommend to do that instead, but you should definitely be playing around with your different skills and builds, because there is so much potential in like all of these classes to have unique builds and different ways of playing them, whether that be melee or ranged or even other intricacies inside that. So definitely recommend doing that, and do side quests. A lot of side quests will send you to dungeons. So if you're just going and clearing dungeons and then a side quest asks you to go and clear a dungeon, it's mildly annoying to have to clear a dungeon a second time or go into a dungeon. I'm like an efficiency freak. I like to just be as efficient as possible. So I'd like clear any dungeon that I come across, and then I'd come across a side quest that then would be to go back into that dungeon. I'm like, oh, I've got to go do that again. Do you know what I mean? So it's not a big deal. I just thought I'd call it out. Now, make sure you guys keep an eye on the channel, as I'll have plenty more Diablo content coming out over the next few days as we get further into the game. Let me know your own tips and tricks down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.